everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the individual who has their sun in Leo and Pisces rising. First and foremost, this combination is great for an actor or an actress because the rising sign can be how other people see you, how you act in the company of others. And of course, if you're on stage, I mean, that is the ultimate facade, if you will. And so Pisces is the natural chameleon. It's a mutable water sign after all. And the sun in Leo is the born actor, the person who loves the born performer, you could say. This combination is very creative, very artistic. But sometimes we could say that Pisces might be rather retiring, that they might be a bit shy. With the whatever is on the ascendant will really highlight this. Even a person with the sun in Leo, and Leo is such a show-off, a ham. But when you have a feminine sign, like a water sign or an earth sign, it can I think it can increase the inhibition of the individual in how they are expressing themselves to the world at large. And that's what I see with the rising sign. Now, for sure, in the person's more private life, with the people that they're comfortable around, they may be more gregarious, more animated. I guess that's kind of similar, but you know what I mean. And I think we all know people like this who are very inhibited in kind of like the mass social scene, but when they are around people that are very close to them, they're almost like a different person. And actually, I'm kind of like that. And I have Taurus rising, but I have the sun in Sagittarius. And I have the moon in Virgo. So there's another feminine sign, two earth signs. Sun or moon and rising sign. And like Leo, Sag is a fire sign. So this is one of those things where Leo people may be a little bit frustrated at their tendency to maybe be a little bit withdrawn. Now, that isn't entirely the case, because I remember reading a book about the sign of Pisces, and I think they were talking more about the sun sign, but this can certainly be any influential placement of Pisces. And they were saying that the sign of Pisces can resemble any of the other 11 signs of the zodiac. So in other words, there are Pisces people that are more like a Leo. There are Pisces that are like a Virgo. They might be very persnickety like a Virgo or very gregarious like a Leo, and so on and so forth. So there's always that possibility, and then that person will be much more outgoing. And I will say that Pisces people do tend to be, a Pisces person tends to be a people person. I actually believe that with all the water signs, because they are emotional and they do want to nurture relationships. But Pisces is kind of, I was going to say a strange breed. But what I mean is that Pisces to me, maybe because Jupiter is the ancient ruler, so there's almost like this influence from Sagittarius, where the Pisces person can be very, like a party animal type of person. And I just mean the sort of excess that we associate with Jupiter. But Neptune gives Jupiter a run for its money when it comes to self-indulgence, so don't get it twisted. But anyway, the sun is the aspirational self, meaning that when we come into this lifetime, I believe in reincarnation, so I don't believe we just have one lifetime, and then if you're listening to this as a Leo that this is it. You are a Leo and that's the end of it. I mean, I think we are different signs. And so because of that, it's like a new set of goals, if you will. I've actually read that in our past life, we are the sign prior. So for Leo, if that's true, then you would have been Cancer, the sign of Cancer in your past life. Of course, I don't know if it just runs lifetime after lifetime. Here's the next sign over. I don't know if that's true. But in any case, Leo is a sign that whatever you're doing, you want to be passionate about your life. You want to see life as, there's that expression larger than life. You don't want life to be this small thing. Now, interestingly, Leo is adjacent to Virgo, and Virgo is about the minor details, and Virgo rules the sixth house in astrology, which deals with, your health and your work, your service to others, and your pets. That's not really relevant here, but your day-to-day schedule, so how you order your time. Leo, the sign before Virgo, is the fifth house of pleasure, love, creativity, fun, recreational sex, anything with pleasure can be featured here. Conceiving children can be fifth house, but children in general. So there's that playful spirit that we would attach to the fifth house. And with the sixth house, we would have more of the, nose to the grindstone vibe. So with that very playful energy, you may have inner planets in Virgo, which would make you more work-oriented, and definitely Leo can be a workaholic. So if you have, the Sun in Leo and Mars in Virgo, for instance, you might be the kind of person who is all about the work. But there will be a tendency to be a big kid at heart, no matter what. And then, if you include this Pisces rising, it also, that combination is wildly romantic and creative. And, as far as I'm concerned, creativity and romance go hand in hand. And they both are part of the fifth house that Leo rules. Your ruler, we could say that the sun sign, the ruler of the sun sign and the ruler of the ascendant are your rulers. But technically, the ruler of the chart would be that rising sign. So Neptune is your ruler. So this gives, but then you could also say the sun is your ruler through Leo. But, to have Neptune as your ruler can give you a rather, unrealistic attitude, or I don't know if I'd like to characterize it that way, but something that is not so grounded. And it's great for creativity, though. And it's great for, being in love and being in this fantasy, because Neptune can be about fantasy. But it can sometimes get this combination in trouble because you may fall in love with the wrong person. You may get taken advantage of, even because Leo is very generous and Pisces can be very gullible or naive. And so the person, I have to talk about the appearance, because a rising sign can really show this off. There might be a tendency in some people to retain water. I was going to say to be a little bit chubby, but it's one of those things, Pisces being that chameleon on the ascendant, You might change from day to day. And one day you look a little bit like bloated, and the next day you're thin, and people are like, did you lose 10 pounds in one day? Like, what the actual, what is that all about? Or even just other aspects, like you're just like this changeling or something. And another thing that is very like the hallmark of Neptune rising can be, I think I don't know if I read this or I just kind of like absorbed it within my own intuition. Maybe both, but this idea of a very youthful appearance. And the reason that I feel that this is the case is because, like in the tarot, the Page of Cups is associated with Pisces. And the Page of Cups is like this innocence. And, when we think of innocence, actually, pages are like babies or children, and the child itself is known as innocence. Cups are water, so that's where the Pisces energy comes in. But that's the thing, is that this combination is a very refreshing one, because there's almost like a guileless quality where the person has their defenses down, because Neptune is the opposite of Saturn. It's not about borders or boundaries. It's all about we are one, we are at one with the universe, which means that there's a very compassionate streak in the sign of Pisces. But sometimes Pisces is more geared towards kind of like that Atman, or that, I don't know if that's the proper term, the sea of souls versus the individual soul. There's the, we're all individual souls, but then we merge into one. That doesn't mean it's one versus the other. It's both. And that can be the lesson that Pisces has yet to learn, is that they have to honor the self sometimes. They can't just be merging into the cosmic soup, because then they lose themselves. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that you ever really lose yourself, but the idea of absorption, or you could say in the more mundane sense, the desire to kind of like, Pisces doesn't need that kind of recognition as an individual. Pisces rules the 12th house. So Pisces is coming from the spiritual perspective that is very self-sacrificial. And as a result, a Pisces individual can sometimes end up sacrificing their own well-being for the sake of another person's feelings. This is where it becomes martyrdom. Now, don't think that I am suggesting that a Leo person can't be more assertive than that they're just going to be a doormat for anybody. But the thing is, and also don't assume that I've forgotten that your sun is in Leo. But remember what I said. I believe that this is about aspiring to become that Leo. What can drag the person down is the Pisces, because the Pisces can, to me, indicate the family of origin. And when I see Pisces prominent, you could just say personal planets as a whole, but sun, moon, or rising specifically, then I really feel like the person has been through a lot. And also look at your moon sign to get a feel for your emotional nature and how that plays into things, because that can be a bit of an indicator. Like if your moon sign is in air or earth signs, you might have a more detached perspective. The water and fire are more emotional, and they can, especially the water, but the fire is emotional in a more impersonal way. But the truly detached signs are earth and air, and that can be a saving grace if you're dealing with these two emotional influences that are very prominent. So if you have been through a lot, maybe when you were a child, and Pisces can be the victim, so that I have said multiple times that I believe that after the first Saturn return around the age of 30, that the person, not that they totally abandon their rising sign, because I don't think you ever can. I mean, it's always going to be a part of you, but I feel that you grow into your sun sign, and the first Saturn return to me is individuating from your family of origin. That Pisces influence can be that the person comes from some kind of background where there was chaos, where there was addiction in some cases, or there could be secrets. There could have been kind of shame and even like, and this is a hallmark of addiction, but other types of dysfunction where the child saw early on that adults did not necessarily have it together. Some children, grow up with parents who are very responsible. The Pisces rising individual may not have had that. Now, you can't say that across the board naturally. I'm not saying that I'm going to be correct about this 100% of the time. However, I do believe that this would be the case for some people, and as a result, it can definitely affect how you view relationships. I mean, you may have had adults, specifically parents who broke their promises multiple times. And so in some cases, the person, especially if you have maybe Cancer, inner planets, but definitely Virgo, that you may be that workaholic who is very, in some cases, rigid with a fixed sign sun. And, that you don't like to have any kind of anything that's like not totally taken care of. So there could be an anal quality. It depends on other factors in your chart and things like that. But yeah, so there has to be this understanding that compassion does not mean that we are rescuing people from their own messes. That we can help people without enabling them, that we can, wish them well if they are struggling, and yet, our efforts are not helping them. All of those things can lead to becoming codependent if a person isn't careful. So relationships might be a bit fraught with peril, especially when this combination is younger. As you get older, you might get more savvy, and you might learn how to pick better. I think that, like I said, this is a wildly romantic combination. You may, if you are artistic, you may find that the person that you fall in love with is your muse, and that they help you stimulate your creative juices. And going back, but before I say anything else about that, I just wanted to say too about appearance. You may have very dreamy eyes. and or hypnotizable. Well, you are hypnotizable, but you might just be very have a faraway look. And I think your eyes might even be like hazel, and this doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You may have seen this famous photo. I don't know if it was Time Magazine or something, where they had this woman who's from Afghanistan, and her skin tone was on the darker side. And I think that's what was so fascinating about this photo, because the contrast. She had the most amazing, like, I don't know if they were like turquoise eyes or like just, I think it was like electric blue or something like that. I'm sure some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I hope I'm not mistaken about, how I'm describing her. But there was like this very unusual quality, because you know what I think it is? I don't know. I mean, she might have had like a olive, maybe her skin tone was like olive, but I think it was darker than that. But you typically think of people from the Middle East as having brown eyes. I don't know. Maybe I'm 100% wrong on that, but there was some reason why her appearance was so memorable. But anyway, the point is that no matter what, you may have these eyes. Maybe they change colors, like they're hazel. One day they're green and one day they're blue, like the ocean. Neptune, mermaid vibes. And so in terms of, but the main thing that I want to say is there might be a helpless quality. Again, when you're younger, you may have been victimized. You may have been the scapegoat of the family. And again, I heard recently them say that the scapegoat is the one who can see through all the bullshit in the family. And I don't know that somebody with Pisces rising would call out their family members necessarily, because there's so much compassion that they may keep quiet. But, Leo does tend to be quite bold, being a fire sign, so who knows? Maybe as you get older, you get more ballsy and more outspoken. So that's always a possibility. But there can be this helpless quality. Again, I believe that that's what the that victim status. And remember, the rising sign is the self, so it's easy to identify with that unless a person is maybe gets therapy or otherwise starts to step into who they really are and rejects some of those faulty belief system or patterns. Until that happens, they might actually identify with that. But I think that Leo is the sign of the lion, and it's always associated with pride and dignity. So that's not necessarily something that a Leo person embraces, is the idea of victimhood, because you might have way too much pride to even want to go there. In terms of professions, I've already talked about show business, but the theater, that's not really talking about movies necessarily, but Neptune rules photography. But anything creative, anything that has to do with children, I would say. Honestly, the rising sign I don't see as being all that influential in terms of the type of profession a person gets into. The one reason why it might be is because it could relate to, with the rising sign being the self, performance is all about, moving one's body if they're a dancer, or uh, the the singer who has some great stage presence, obviously the actor. And with the actor, the the water element allows the person to channel themselves into a role. I think about people like Daniel Day-Lewis, for instance. He's one of those people that I think of as a consummate actor, in that he loses himself in roles. We think of these people who are celebrities, and they can be really good in certain movies, but they always seem to have the same persona. Even when they're playing a different character, they don't really change how they look or act. But then you get other people who are like shapeshifters, where they really are different in different roles. And they're always the most fun to watch on the silver screen, because they're so good at what they do. And they're so convincing. And I feel like having Pisces rising gives a person a bit of a leg up in that regard, where they can do that very easily, because, Neptune, the ruler of the 12th house, Pisces domain is obviously Neptune, and that can deal with past lives and, the spiritual dimensions. And it's a water sign, so it helps that person to kind of channel things. And even like past life things, those people who are writers, who I think James Michener is an example of this. I've never read anything by him, but I don't know, I think he had a book called Hawaii or something, but he wrote so many long, long books. Sometimes, and I think has been very prolific. People who can do things like that, I'm often thinking that they're tapping into past lifetimes, and that they're just channeling. They're not just sitting there thinking about what they're going to write next. They're just like, it's almost like automatic writing or something. But yeah, so other professions could be like, maybe you're a teacher, and you have these students that really care about you. You're like their favorite teacher. You love to play with them. It's just like something that really makes you feel young, makes you feel alive. That's the other profession that really stands out to me. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.